And welcome to this first edition. We're going to be talking to you this evening about operational strategy. And in this lesson, I'm going to guide you through section 1 and everything that you need to be putting into your first operational plans. Now, in section 1 of your level 3 in operational management, we're going to be looking at the organization strategy, because you have to understand that there are two things involved in this unit. Before you even get to the operational side, you need to understand the strategic side. And this is what I'm going to be getting you to put into your operational plan. So, yeah, we are doing an operational plan, but we are going to be including strategic planning. In a company, you're going to look at the strategic planning first. In any hierarchy of any organization, the higher management often do the strategy, which then gets put into a middle management where you're probably working right now, which is the operational strategy. So we have to think of ourselves as a higher manager in this instance, and how we're going to think about how we're going to change or solve a problem within our surgery. And that's what we're going to be setting up here. So I'm going to be guiding you through the ILM workbook on your screen right now. And we're going to be looking at the process, first of all, of an operational strategy. Now, the reason why I'm doing it on the ILM workbook is because you can follow it on. So if you're on your operational management level 3 workbook, this is on page 4. Now, in any strategy, before an operation is formed, the manager has to think about where are you now, where you want to be, how are you going to get there, and how are you going to measure the success and progress along the way. These are the 4 things that I'm going to go through in this video, in this lesson. Now, the first thing that you have to think about often is internal and external factors. Now, internal factors could be things like the physical resources, machinery or equipment, human resources such as team members and supervisors, to the time spent on doing the task, to other stakeholders. Now, remember that the word stakeholder is very different to shareholder. A stakeholder is anyone who has an interest in the organization. So in the way of a surgery, a patient could be a stakeholder, as well as trustees, the CCG, the partners, the doctors, the employees. Everyone has an interest in the organisation. They're all different interests, whereas some are for job security, some are for good healthcare, some are for income, right? But everyone has an interest in the company. Now, within your organisational plans that I've given you, if you don't already have them, send myself or your assessor, if it's not myself, an email. I want you to do a SWOT analysis, all right? SWOT analysis. So S for strengths, W for weakness, O for opportunities, and T for threats. Now, we're going to explain more about what a SWOT analysis is within our one-to-one meetings with you. But I want you to do the SWOT analysis for the whole surgery, okay? Not just a person or a team, the whole surgery. So what are your current strengths? Maybe you've got higher CQC scores. Okay, good teamwork, good communication. Weaknesses, maybe it's poor teamwork, poor communication. Opportunities, I don't know, maybe there's a chance of growing the surgery, maybe there's a new housing develop and your patient size will increase. Some may say that's a threat. What could the threats be? Could it be funding? Could it be something else? Really, what we're trying to do in operational management is you need to solve a problem. And at this point, we need to understand what the problem is. And that's what you need to be telling me in your operational plans. But at the moment, we're looking at the strategy part of it. I mean, you may have ideas about what you want to talk about. It could be a plan to increase an element of CQC. It could be a plan to increase the online booking system to the surgery. It could be a plan to increase communication in the team. It could be anything, but we don't know what the problem is until we've analysed what is happening in the surgery through SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So that's one element that I would like to see within your operational plan. Now, you've probably always thought about, in order to develop something in the organisation, I just need to understand what's going on internally. Well, as a manager and as you grow in your career, you need to start thinking about what's happening externally as well. And that's where you need to look at the external factors. Okay, so looking at the internal factors is one thing, but we need to understand what's going on globally or nationally at the same time. Because, if you foresee a recession coming up, it would be stupid for you to grow your business during that, unless you're a big risk taker, right? So in this element, we're going to look at things like external customers, suppliers, legislation and regulation, national occurrences. Now, you'd monitor the external environment through a pestle analysis. So a SWOT analysis measures internal elements. A pestle analysis is going to measure external. And just like your SWOT analysis, I would like to see a pestle analysis within your strategic planning. Pestle stands for political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental. Okay. Now, you're going to be developing a table of a pestle analysis. It'll look like this. Well, not as detailed as this. This grid is just going to tell us the meaning of all the different letters, all right? But I would like you to have a grid like this with PESTLE down the side. What could possibly impact your surgery in an example? Obviously, not everything's going to impact your surgery, but I would like to see an idea to show me that you understand pestle. So examples of some political influences, things like government rules and regulations could be changing in terms of waste management strategies or planning. Government funding could stop or decrease. Okay, I mean, we hope not, but hey. There could be differences in taxation and national insurance or pension contributions. So if your project is based on developing the team, a possible impact on that might be the actual work in the employment side of the team. Now, with political comes economical areas, all right? And again, you can refer to this on page 6 of your ILM workbooks of level 3. Things like a recession, if you foresee a recession coming after Brexit, for example. I mean, this video is being recorded of the 17th of January 2019. That might be a potential impact. So if you're planning to grow the business, you're going to tell me what's going on in your SWOT analysis, but what could potentially happen. It's almost like the pestle analysis is analysing potential risks that are outside of your control. Could there be inflation rates, for example? I mean, consumer confidence, you wouldn't really write that as a surgery. If there's a recession, people tend to not spend as much, all right? If there's no recession, they will spend more. And that's what it means by consumer confidence. You might have heard it in news reports recently. I mean, social elements, which you can talk about on the pestle analysis, people's lifestyle changes. In a surgery, you may have different impacts in demographics and population. For example, if you're working in a rural surgery and there's a new housing development and you're in a commuter belt into London, the demographics and population of your surgery is going to dramatically change. So how are you going to keep up with that? Systems where people can get their prescriptions in the City of London, if that's a work, or does a whole new demographic involve a whole new services that you have to offer, for example? There's a lot of technological changes happening in surgeries and any business at the moment. Think about repeat prescriptions, being able to do GP at hand. Could that impact your plan? There's always going to be legal elements depending on what your operational plan is. This could be through employment law, health and safety laws, GDPR, data protection law. So if you're planning to change a system in your operational plan, in the pestle analysis, you'd need to maybe just write a few notes on GDPR, for example. And don't forget about environmental impacts. Waste management regulations could change. Surgeries have very different ways of disposing different waste. Environmental protection. Hey, if you're building or expanding the surgery, you could make it more of an eco design. You hear stories of people selling their energy from renewable sources like solar panels back to the national grid. It could be a distant energy source. So there you've got it. You've got a SWOT analysis and you've got this pestle analysis. One is measuring internal, one is measuring external. And I'd like to see examples of both in your operational plans. Now, there is another one which I'm going to get you to think about, which is a Porter's 5 Forces model, which I'm going to be speaking to you more about on a one-to-one basis when I'm next in the surgery. Now, but let's have another look down, because just having these models might not be enough. All right, you've got your SWOT analysis and you've got your PESTEL analysis. What else might you need? Well, data, okay? For example, if you're improving customer service, you might want to look back at past customer service results, all right? If you're looking back at anything, there's going to be some sort of data, whether it's quantitative data, that's in numbers, charts, etc., or qualitative data, that means whether it's more in written format. There will be stuff that you can analyse alongside the SWOT and the PESTEL analysis. So you can start to see you've got 3 different things on the go now: PESTEL, SWOT and data. Now, when you research all these, you're going to then see, there's a problem here. And that's what I want you to write about in your operational plan. That's what I want the whole operational plan and strategy to be. This whole unit should feel like you're doing work for the surgery instead of actually doing work for the course. Now, if you can do a real operational plan for something that you're actually working in the surgery, that's amazing. Understandably, there might not be anything for you to do. So we can do like a made up scenario, okay, as long as we can prove it. I mean, if you're doing a real life strategic plan, I mean, I'm asking you to do this unit within the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks. Obviously, your operational plan might be consistently ongoing. Well, that's fine, but we'll just maybe have to evaluate it for the purpose of this course and close it off. But there's no reason why you can't keep it going. But you can start to see now we're answering that question. Where are you now? You've done the SWOT, you've done the PESTEL, you've looked at all the evidence and you're starting to put it together. Now, from that point onwards, you need to start to think about where you want to be. So from that purpose, you're going to think more about the vision of the organisation. What's the purpose of the surgery? What's their vision for the next 5 years? And does your plan fit into that? How are you going to set goals? Okay, so we want to improve customer service on the reception desk by an increase of 20%. How are you going to do that? What deadlines are you going to set over the next weeks and months? Think of smart planning. Now, we are going to go into that into more detail in other lessons, but for the moment, it's about thinking about the ideas. Now, once you've set yourself goals and targets, you need to think more about how you're going to get there. Are there budgets that you need to include? Now, you'll notice on the template of the operational plan, I've included a budget. You don't necessarily need it for this unit, but there is a finance unit coming up in the future to which I'd like us to already start gaining evidence. So you can start to see that I'm merging units together. Are there any financial forecasts? If you don't have financial forecasts, that's fine. But what you will need to do is need to be evidence of how you're going to work with the team, how you're going to communicate the team, the plan. Okay, so this is what the problem is, how we're going to fix it. What's the communication like going to be between the team? And setting targets. Remember that SMART planning, SMART, S-M-A-R-T, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. And that's what we're going to come into. And now on your ILM workbooks, I'm looking from pages 9 onwards. So at this point, you're now going to start thinking about how you're going to translate high-level plans. So remember, what I've been telling you to do at this stage is looking at the strategy, the higher management side of it. You need to think now how you're going to take this strategy and turn it into an operational plan. So you could say the unit is a mixture of strategic and operational. All right. What policies, procedures, standards have you got to work towards? What deadlines? I really want, physical and human resources, I really want to see evidence of this in your workbook. What resources do you need in terms of computer systems, data, team members, training? What do you need from that? You'll see I've laid out bullet points in your templates that will help you with that. These other elements, financial resources, you may or may not need it, okay? It's not necessarily to have it. I will speak to you more one-to-one about that if you are struggling with financial resources. But however, if you're confident in that, then go ahead and do it. But start to think about if you're going to make this operational plan work, just think about the progress. Okay, you could say that you want to improve customer service within the next 3 months, all right? You're not just going to train the staff and then review it in 3 months. You're going to have like reviews after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 8 weeks. That's when I want to see you planning within your operational plan. How are you going to measure, and how will you know it's been a success? Are you wanting to see an increase in percentages over time? And really, that's how you're going to take your operational plan into a strategy to move forward. So remember the SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T. That's what we're going to be covering more in the detail. But really, in this stage, as you can see, it's important for a team and departmental goals to align with the organization goals. Your operational plan isn't going to change the whole surgery, right? It's just going to be a very small thing. But what I'd like to see evidence of is the goals aligning with the whole plan. All right, so your tiny little operational plan, well, it's not tiny, it's meaningful, right? But it's going to mean something to the rest of the surgery. It's like that small percentage going to equal to the whole surgery's 100% of delivering an excellent service. And you'll start to see that when you're thinking about developing the operational plan, there are going to be some elements of previous units which you could embed. For example, if you're talking to and training team members, think about how you're going to coach the team or mentor the team. Is there any potential conflict which could happen with the team? And why do objectives need to be SMART? Well, because you want to collaborate with each other. You want to improve motivation and empowerment. If people don't know what they're doing, and if the targets aren't SMART, then how are you going to empower them to do it? And it also makes people improve their decision making. Now, one thing that I like about SMART is that it gives people clarity and focus, okay? It allows them to see things concisely. So you'll be able to put your SMART plan together in a grid, all right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Specific. Okay, so let's just say your plan is to improve customer service. You want to improve customer service by 20% by March 2019. That's specific. Measurable. I'm going to measure this by tracking the performance every 2 weeks over the next 3 months period. I'll be doing this from SMS feedback. I'll be doing this through one-to-one feedback, questionnaires in the surgery. That's measurable, right? Achievable. Well, you could say, yes, it is achievable because the team are going to be trained before I start the actual process. And I will continue to coach and train the people, the team members, whilst the process is moving. Is it realistic? Yes, a 3-month period you can say is realistic. And time bound, put the details of what you want done by when. So hopefully that will give you a little bit of an idea and how you can start to think about your operational planning. Now remember, I'm going to be releasing a video every week to help you through the plan alongside your one-to-one sessions which I'm going to have with you. But really by the end of this session, you should now really be able to understand how the strategy is developed. You know what to do with a SWOT analysis, a PESTLE analysis, how you can gather data, and then tell me what your problem is. And then start to think about the SMART plan and how you're going to move it forward. So that's the end of this short video. But yeah, carry on working through that over the next week. And I'll be uploading a new video next week to take you through section 2 of your Operational Management ILM Level 3 books.